Ladies and gentlemen, the Golden State Warriors are officially back. And when I say that, I start with defense. They gave up 84 points in a game that they dominated. Maybe dominated is a strong word, but they definitely had control from beginning to end. 84 points. That's not a lot, folks. That's 80s basketball. That's 90s, early 2000s basketball. The Warriors have won 10 of 12. They've got a heavyweight title bout coming on Sunday at home against the reigning world champion Denver Nuggets. We're also going to talk about Steve Kerr. He's got a new contract extension, minimum of 2 more years. Moses Moody, how do you feel about Steve Kerr's contract extension?
It sucks.
I'm being facetious, folks. He did not actually say that. But Moses Moody, he's the one person I feel bad for in all this. Regardless, we'll break down the contract extension. We'll break down the Warriors back on track. They're title contenders, folks, and we're going to get into it next. This is Locked On Warriors.
You are Locked On Warriors, your daily Golden State Warriors podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Thank you for making Locked On Warriors your first listen every day. We're free and available wherever you get podcasts and on YouTube. We're part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Today's episode is brought to you by LinkedIn. LinkedIn Jobs helps you find the qualified candidates you want to talk to faster. Post your job for free at linkedin.com/lockedonnba. That's linkedin.com/lockedonnba to post your job for free. Terms and conditions apply. You can follow me, Cyrus Saatsaz, on Threads at Dog Wild. The handle hopefully is super easy, where you can also find the program on Threads at Locked On Warriors. The Golden State Warriors have won 10 of 12 games. They're on track. But what stuck out to me in this performance tonight against the Charlotte Hornets, a team who came into this game, by the way, having won 4 straight games of themselves, a grossly underrated team. Stephen Curry's brother Seth was playing tonight, but the Warriors played defense. And when I say played defense, I mean they gave up 84 total points, but it goes way beyond that. At the end of the first half, the Warriors had only given up 29 points. 29 first half points, obviously a season low. They only gave up 14 second quarter points before the Hornets made a little noise in the second half. But regardless, a beautiful win. The Warriors, again, it's, you know what I'm feeling great about when it comes to the Golden State Warriors? I'm feeling great about the fact that I'm not feeling stressed anymore when I'm watching this team. This entire season, until maybe the last month or so, almost every single game, you could never feel comfortable. You can never live a stress-free, anxiety-free evening because they'd blow leads, they'd underachieve. We've talked endlessly about the clutch performances. When I say clutch, I'm referring to a game that's within 5 points within the last 5 minutes of a game. And the Warriors are leaders in clutch games. I believe they're at 34 this year. So stress has been the word that is synonymous with this Golden State Warriors team. And folks, that stress is a relief right now. So bravo to the Golden State Warriors. And starting things off in terms of who to highlight in this game. This was a weird game in terms of point totals because while the Golden State Warriors gave up 84, not a lot. Again, I mentioned the fact that they only gave up 29 total in the first half before they gave up 23 third quarter points and then 32 fourth quarter points. So the Hornets did make it a respectable 84 points when all said and done. But when you look at the scoring chart, no one really took control. It was a very balanced performance. Nearly every player who played in this game, whose name is not Jerome Robinson, scored points. We had 5 players hit double figures, but your leading scorer tonight was Stephen Curry. Not a surprise there, obviously, but what might be surprising is the fact that he only scored 15 points total, and yet he was the leading scorer for your Golden State Warriors. Stephen Curry, I believe, passed Elgin Baylor for 33rd on the all-time scoring list tonight. So kudos to Stephen Curry for that. We're obviously going to talk about the Steve Kerr contract extension in just a moment. Look, I know I've been very critical of that individual for a year and a half now. And if you've been an everydayer for this program, going back to the very beginning. When I say the very beginning, I'm talking to when I first started. This was October 2021. I didn't criticize Steve Kerr that whole year. And in all the years I was hosting programs with Rick Barry leading up to now, dating back to 2018, never criticized Steve Kerr then. My biggest issue with him was his management of young up-and-coming players. And watching a year ago, these two-way guys stealing minutes from Jonathan Kuminga and Moses Moody was driving me up the wall. And we saw this report a couple days ago from Baxter Holmes discussing the turmoil and the tumult going on behind the scenes between the coaching staff and the front office pertaining to the development of these young players. And the fact that the Warriors, oddly, by winning a title in 2022, that threw a wrench in terms of the grand scheme. We've heard a lot of discussions about the narrative of two timelines, right? Which really was just in reference to the Warriors trying to emulate the San Antonio Spurs model of extending their dynasty beyond just one run, where the Spurs pulled it off, at least extending it to a certain extent. They had a dynasty for 18 years because of the development of Kawhi Leonard, who came out of nowhere. And you could see the Jonathan Kuminga parallels there, not so much in playing style, they're very different players, but certainly in terms of a young and up-and-coming, rising potential superstar level talent that's being immersed and being integrated with a big three. With the Spurs, you had Tony Parker, you had Manu Ginobili, Tim Duncan, and then with this iteration, in terms of the Warriors, you have Steph, you have Clay, and you have Draymond Green. But Steve Kerr and his staff, according to that story, and I've reported it on this program for nearly 2 years now, they were not buying in to developing them. Steve Kerr just did not have the patience for it. I don't know if there was a lack of belief and trust in the youngsters, but, circumstances happened this year. Kuminga finally started getting minutes, and the Warriors, long story short, have now won 10 of the last 12. You're seeing the young players on this roster playing now. And so Steve Kerr gets rewarded with the 2-year extension, which and first of all, the dollar amount is incredible. His 2-year extension, which kicks in after the season, is going to be for $35 million. It makes him the highest paid coach in NBA history. Greg Popovich, I believe, technically makes more money than him, but Greg Popovich also has the title of president for the San Antonio Spurs. So Steve Kerr is going to be making $17 million and change per year for the next 2 years. But I don't hate it for this reason. This dynasty now has a fairly clear-cut picture of where it's going to end, or where at least the franchise will acknowledge it's time to really make some serious changes. And that's 2 years from now, meaning in spring or early summer of 2026, that is when we might be saying goodbye to Klay Thompson. That's when, I don't imagine we're going to be saying goodbye to Stephen Curry, but there is a strong possibility at the end of 2026, Steve Kerr will retire at that point. There is a very clear reason why that contract extension was just for 2 years and not, let's say, for 4 or 5. It also gives Joe Lacob a longer leash and some slack, just in case all the concerns we've had about Steve Kerr this year come back and blow up. And let's say, and really the two main faults of Steve Kerr has been his lack of trust and his lack of development with the young players, and his favoritism that he oftentimes shows toward the core three and Andrew Wiggins and Kevon Looney and most players who were involved in a lot of these title runs. So if we see this reversion from Steve Kerr, a 2-year contract is short enough where Joe Lacob, if he decides to have second thoughts, can pull a trigger much sooner than the 2 years is up. I highly doubt we're going to see that, but I'm just explaining why the 2-year thing bears relevancy. So look, I've criticized the man. I feel like my criticisms were incredibly justified, but at the same time, look, the bottom line is this is a business of winning. And I'm not criticizing people when they're losing in professional sports. Why would I? There are rare exceptions to that, obviously. There was a game a few days ago where the Warriors almost blew a massively huge lead. And they barely squeaked by entering the All-Star break. Yeah, that warranted some critique. But generally speaking, when you've won 10 of 12, when your margin of victory is not squeakers, when you're actually taking care of business, handling teams, congratulations. You deserve to be rewarded for that. And I don't think, look, there is a reason why Steve Kerr did not get his contract extension a month or two ago. The Warriors were getting their asses handed to them. That's not happening now. And again, the fact that you're seeing a lot of these young players getting a run, the fact that you saw Corey Joseph traded so that a player like Lester Quinones can play some more. You're seeing minutes from Guy Santos, Trace Jackson Davis, finally, thankfully. I mean, you saw him make a considerable impact in last night's game against the Lakers. In tonight's game, we didn't see him as much as at least I would have liked, but he still played 15 minutes. We're obviously Jonathan Kuminga is now a starter and a key pivotal player on this roster. The Moses Moody side of it is the one wrinkle where, we just have to hope after the season, either the team trades him just for his sake, or at least he has a defined role on this team for next year. Because right now, there's no disputing that Gary Payton II is right above him in the pecking order. And look, GP2 is an awesome player. So it's hard to argue against GP2 getting minutes. I personally wish there was a little more flexibility in terms of the positions that Steve Kerr has socially constructed in his own mind, meaning you don't have to have as many point guards getting as many minutes as they get. But, Moses Moody, I feel for you. But, hopefully after the season that gets resolved somehow, because I do believe strongly in that kid. I think I think he could absolutely play. I don't know if his ceiling is superstar, but he can be a star. It wouldn't surprise me if the kid someday made an all-star game or two. He's good. He can play. There is no doubt in my mind that he is an NBA talent. But he has to get a run. Even Steve Kerr admitted himself that the only way you can truly develop in the NBA is by getting reps. It is the best teaching methodology is to let someone do and not just let someone sit there and study and watch. So let's hope Moses Moody gets his run. But again, Steve Kerr gets his contract extension. For what it's worth, I like it. He's earned it. And again, it fits. It makes sense when you look at the big picture, because now Klay Thompson almost certainly is going to come back after this year, and he's going to come back for probably a cheaper price than you would have to spend to keep him otherwise. Stephen Curry is happy. I give Steve Kerr absolute credit for basically acknowledging how valuable Draymond Green is to this big picture, right? Draymond Green is almost as much, if not more, of a coach on this team than Steve Kerr is. But Steve Kerr is aware of that, and that awareness is important. So congratulations, Steve Kerr. We got him for 2 more years, most likely. And congratulations to the Golden State Warriors, because they're about to now enter the ultimate test. And we're going to talk about that when we come back. And that's this Sunday. I believe tip-off is at 4 p.m. at Chase Center. And it's going to be Warriors Nuggets. I haven't had a chance to look at the injury report. One thing that's going to be a new wrinkle for this show, and it's not going to be a big one, but I actually have an intern, and his name is Carl, and he's going to start joining the program next week. We're going to call him Intern Carl. There are 2 interns that I have for this semester of higher education. The other intern, her name is Katie, and she's also going to be contributing as well. So she's going to have a weekly segment called Katie's Corner, and intern Carl will have a segment once a week, whatever title he comes up with. But he's also behind the scenes right now. He's helping me out. He's monitoring the comment section. I love it. And intern Carl just let me know, by the way, the one depressing piece of news from tonight's game, at least in my humble opinion, is that Jonathan Kuminga entered this game having scored in double figures in 34 straight games. That streak snapped tonight. Kuminga did not have a great game, finished with just 6 points. He was a plus 15 in net rating, which was second on the team. He was clearly contributing out there, just not a great shooting night. A lot of the fadeaways that he put up that typically do go in did not go in. He had 2 3-point attempts and missed both of those, was just 2 of 9 from the field. But, huge but, he is contributing in other ways to make up for it. His court awareness has skyrocketed. And a case in point, in tonight's game, you saw him, and you're seeing this a lot now, where he's passing up, trying to go for the difficult shot, and instead is finding teammates for much easier looks. He's also playing much better off-ball defense. I'm going to get into that so much more. But Kuminga, it was an incredible streak. And intern Carl, thank you for doing that research. He had 6 points tonight, did have 7 rebounds, 6 assists. The Golden State Warriors, again, winners, 97-84. And we're going to have a lot more to talk about when we come back. First, though, let's give some love to our sponsors. And the first sponsor for tonight's show is LinkedIn. And LinkedIn, again, I tell all my students this time and time and again, that if you're going to be in the job market and if you're not on LinkedIn, you are severely missing out, because every headhunter out there, everybody looking for work out there, and looking for talent more specifically, is on LinkedIn. And if you're on the other side of the coin, if you're a small business, if you're an entrepreneur, if you're trying to bring talent into your establishment that you're building yourself, you want to find quality professionals that are right for the role. That's why you have to check out LinkedIn Jobs. LinkedIn Jobs has the tools to help find the right professionals for your team faster and for free. LinkedIn isn't just another job board. LinkedIn has a vast network of more than 1 billion professionals, which makes it the best place to hire. It gives you access to professionals you can't find anywhere else. LinkedIn does all that while making the process easy and intuitive. Hiring is easy when you have that many qualified candidates. So easy, in fact, that 86% of small businesses get a qualified candidate within 24 hours. So post your job for free at linkedin.com/lockedonnba. That's linkedin.com/lockedonnba to post your job for free. Terms and conditions apply.
You are Locked On Warriors, your daily Golden State Warriors podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Thank you for making Locked On Warriors your first listen every day. The Locked On Podcast Network has launched the first ever national sports 24/7 streaming channel on YouTube, and now it's also available on Amazon Fire TV in the free Fire TV channels app. Locked On Sports Today is here for you 24/7, covering the top sports stories of the day with the local experts of Locked On, plus our national shows covering every league. Find Locked On Sports Today, now available on the free Fire TV channels app. And you can find me, Cyrus Saatsaz, on Threads at Dog Wild. Again, the program is on Threads at Locked On Warriors. I want to see real quick if there's any sound to play following tonight's Golden State Warriors victory, as we are now officially looking ahead to the Warriors and the Nuggets. But we do have some sound coming in. This is from Steve Kerr, who got his contract extension officially announced by Adrian Wojnarowski. Again, 2 years, $35 million is what Woj is reporting. And let's hear from Steve Kerr talking about his riches and his extension, the job security that comes with it. That's one of the best parts. Here is the head coach of the Golden State Warriors, Steve Kerr.
Steve, you agreed to a contract extension today. It's kind of the bigger news of the day. Just any comments on that?
Nothing has been signed, so Raymond has asked me to hold off on commenting on anything until an actual contract is signed. So I'm going to follow his orders.
How do you feel about your future here? Just
Really good. Really good.
Sorry, I was muted there. So there we go. Oh, hey, Carl. That's intern Carl, folks, by the way, just so you can see what he looks like. Carl, you're on the camera at the moment. I'm going to hide you again. You'll be a feature on this show next week. So that's intern Carl helping me out behind the scenes. So Steve Kerr again. So again, apparently it's not official that he is officially going to be with the team for 2 more years, but that will be announced soon. And the reference he made there was to the great Raymond Ritter, the head of PR for the Golden State Warriors. The man, look, I've been in this media game for 25 years now. And I've dealt with a lot of folks in the public relations industry across a lot of different spectrums of industries, not just sports, of entertainment, government. And I could tell you this with absolute certainty, without any doubt in my mind, Raymond Ritter is the best individual in the business. He knows exactly what to do. He's supportive. He's intelligent. The man has empathy. There's a reason why everyone praises him all the time. He's just a good dude. So anyway, so we'll talk more about Steve Kerr in a bit, but he's officially going to be with the Warriors, although I guess it's not unofficially going to be with the Warriors for the next 2 years after this season. But going back to tonight's game real fast, where the Warriors came away victorious again, 97-84. There was a weird little skirmish at the end there. I just want to touch on that for a moment, because Kalena Azubuike was going on at length about how sometimes people take these unwritten rules a little too seriously. So basically, the game is winding down. I can't remember if the score was 97-84, if there's any change after that. I guess I can look that up real fast. But basically, Lester Quinones decided to put up a bucket with the shot clock expiring. And there was about 10, 11 seconds remaining when this happened. So Quinones, basically, if he did not put up a shot, the alternative would have been to, I guess, just hold it and turn the ball over. And so, in terms of the ethics of sportsmanship and what you should do, what the right thing to do is in a situation like that, on one hand, I can understand frustration of a player going up for a basket there. And again, the score was 97-84 after Lester Quinones made the layup. This was with 12 seconds remaining. And so Miles Bridges and Grant Williams took tremendous objection to Quinones going for the basket. Look, it was an 11-point lead. It wasn't 30. And you're basically asking Lester Quinones to add a turnover on the stat sheet. If my understanding of the rules of basketball and scorekeeping is correct. And so your choice is either Quinones gets a turnover just so that the Hornets can feel better, or Quinones will put up a layup as the clock expires, and an 11-point lead becomes 13. Yeah, exactly. Ray Tabloom, I hope I pronounced your name correctly. Ray Tabum from the chat here says, don't want the turnover. I wouldn't want the turnover either, especially if I'm a young player with nothing guaranteed regarding my future. I know it's one turnover, but Miles Bridges, Grant Williams, get over yourselves. And Miles Bridges, I mean, if there's anyone on this planet, at least in the game of in the sport of basketball, and more specifically in the NBA, if there's anyone who needs to protect their image, considering all the nasty reports, just the egregious acts that Miles Bridges has been accused of, and I believe he's been found guilty of some of these things. If there's anybody who needs to have a clean image moving forward, you would think it's Miles Bridges, instead of exhibiting violent tendencies because you're unsatisfied with the decorum from another player over how they act at the end of a game. It was outrageous. It was absolutely outrageous. Dr. J30 writes, the unwritten rule is stupid. Now, G. Martinez brings up a very good point, and I don't know what the spread was. This game was so low scoring. I don't think that layup made a difference in terms of gambling. Intern Carl, if you don't mind taking a look at the FanDuel Sportsbook and write in the chat what the spread was for tonight's game, because I am curious to know what that layup, what that ended up being. Oh, and he also put a clip of Kerr regarding the scuffle. We'll play that in just a second. But that is one exception. That is funny in case that layup did make any kind of difference in regards to the spread. But generally speaking, that was just dumb. That was incredibly stupid on the part of the Hornets to start a fight over that. And it started creeping over to the Warriors bench. And the old rule is, and I'm old enough to remember when this rule did not exist, they put this rule in because every time there was a brawl, benches would clear, and that's when things would get really nasty. So they had a really strict rule where you cannot leave the bench for any fights. And so if there's going to be a brawl on the court, it's going to be 5-on-5 at the most, and it's going to be the coaches. But this thing was slowly meandering to the Warriors bench, and there was a danger there. You saw Klay Thompson, especially with his hands stretched, trying to prevent everyone coming on the court. Good thing that nobody from the Warriors came out there, because that would have been immediate suspensions, and that Nuggets game on Sunday would have been moot at that point. But just wanted to touch on that real fast because it was just stupid. I mean, Grant Williams, look, he left the Dallas Mavericks as a player who apparently did not make many friends there. That guy definitely ran his mouth, I thought, more than he should have in the Warriors Celtics NBA Finals in 2022. Again, Miles Bridges, his reputation is awful. So for them to make a stink about that was utterly asinine. We're going to play another soundbite from Steve Kerr. Intern Carl, thanks for finding that clip. We'll play that when we come back. I want to talk about Gary Payne II a little bit. He was mic'd up in tonight's game. The dude is a character. He was saying some interesting things that I want to discuss on the show when we come back. Carl Benaro, Intern Carl, you're also in the chat. The Hornets were underdogs. But well, isn't that interesting? So the Hornets were 13-point underdogs, and so Lester Quinones' bucket made it a 13-point game. And again, Jay Bird, just for the record, I'll say this before and I've said it again. There is absolutely no inebriation of any kind on this program before I start the show. My eyes just get red from exhaustion. I'm not normally a night owl. I don't like these late hours. I do it for my own sake. I would be a bumbling, mumbling fool, more so than usual, if I was actually high on a show like today. But even though like I'm a California kid, it's legal. Go smoke one down. It's all good, but I don't do it for the show. It's just because I want to actually try and sound smart on this program. Now, Logos podcast, when you say I look homeless, yeah, that's a whole other picture. Yeah, I do. We could discuss my looks. That's a topic of discussion. But we'll talk a little bit more. Yes, Douglas Mikes. I'll even say something nice about Andrew Wiggins when we come back, because Wiggins did have a good game. Wiggins has found his 3-point shot. We'll talk about that and so much more after our next break. We have another sponsor, folks, and let's show them some love here on Locked On Warriors. And our second sponsor for the evening, apropos concerning the topic that we've been discussing, is FanDuel, the official sportsbook of the Locked On Podcast Network. Get buckets with your first bet on FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook, because right now, new customers get $150 in bonus bets with any winning $5 bet. That's $150 if your bet wins. You can bet on all your favorite NBA players and teams with quick bets, live same-game parlays, exclusive props, and much more. And as intern Carl and a few other folks have mentioned on tonight's show, courtesy of the FanDuel Sportsbook, the Warriors are favored by 13 points. Lester Quinones made it a push. That was a nice little wrinkle to throw at the end there. It's sports gambling is wild, folks, and you can get in on the action with FanDuel. Visit FanDuel.com/lockedon and shoot your shot. FanDuel, the official sportsbook partner of the NBA.
You are Locked On Warriors, your daily Golden State Warriors podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
All right, one final segment of Locked On Warriors. Thank you for making Locked On Warriors your first listen every day. We're free and available wherever you get podcasts. And for the everydayers, we're back at this Sunday, folks. Tip-off is 4 p.m., a heavyweight title bout. Intern Carl, if you don't mind helping me out and looking up the spread, courtesy of the FanDuel Sportsbook, I'm very curious to know who is favored in that game. I'm going to take, I love guessing the lines. I really do. And so I'm going to do this right now, unsolicited. I know no one asked for it, but I'm going to guess Warriors Nuggets. It's at Chase Center Sunday. The Warriors have won 10 of 12. How have the Nuggets done real fast? Let me see what the Nuggets are up to. So the Nuggets have won 6 of their last 10. They currently have a 2-game winning streak. One sign that the Warriors, by the way, are doing a hell of a lot better than they were is their differential on the season. And to put it in perspective, when in the years where the Warriors are winning championships, their differential can be 13. And what I mean by that is collectively over the season, how many more points are the Warriors scoring than other teams on average, right? So to put it in perspective, for example, the OKC Thunder, they lead the Western Conference in point differential with plus 8.0, right? The Minnesota Timberwolves, who are tied with the Thunder for the best record in the Western Conference, they are a plus 7.0. The Golden State Warriors, I'm spitballing, so please forgive me if I get specific numbers here wrong, but they were in like the 12-13 range at the peak of their powers. And the Warriors were hovering at like 0 this year. That just indicates how close so many of these games were, how narrow the margin of victory and losing was. They were like right at even 0. And right now, though, they've been playing so good lately that they've boosted their differential up to plus 2.1, which is incredible. The team right above them, the Los Angeles Lakers, are currently negative 0.3. The Warriors are now creeping up on the Phoenix Suns in terms of differential. The Suns are plus 2.9. That's a fantastic number. And it also indicates if teams are being dominant or not for the season. And the Denver Nuggets, even though they're in 4th place in the West, just a game and a half behind the Timberwolves and the Thunder for the top spot on the West, the Nuggets only have a differential of 3.7. So meaning they're averaging 114.5 points per game offensively. They're giving up 110.8 points per game defensively. So the differential there is 3.7, if that makes sense. The Warriors are scoring 119.5 points per game. They're giving up 117.4 points per game. And that number is dropping, which indicates how much better their defense is playing for a differential of plus 2.1. So, but it is the Nuggets. They've won 6 straight against the Warriors. I'm going to say Warriors by 1. Let's see. The intern Carl will come up with this number. And again, I'm going to bring Carl on the show regularly starting next week. An intern Carl says there is not a line out yet for Sunday's Warriors Nuggets game. That is unfortunate. So anyway, but I'm very curious to see what the spread is for that. And let's check out Andrew Wiggins, by the way, for the night, again, because we have some Andrew Wiggins fans in the chat. So I want to make you folks happy. And he deserves love. He played 28 minutes tonight, scored 14 points. Again, the scoring numbers are not there like they used to be for him. But considering what he was doing earlier this season, considering how much his game has turned around, you have to be encouraged by it. It is nice to see. He was 5 for 8 from the field. His 3-point shooting, again, is what has stuck out to me the most. That is the part of his game that looks like 2022 again. Those 3-point shots are falling. 14 points on the night, added 3 assists, 2 rebounds, plus 12 in net rating. Draymond Green led the team in net rating tonight with a plus 18, followed by Kuminga with 15. Steph had 10. So kudos again to Andrew Wiggins. He is turning things around. Gary Payne II was mic'd up. Gary Payne II had a fantastic game, by the way. Finished this game with 12 points. He was 5 for 8 from the field. Again, Stephen Curry said it best. The guy is always at the right place at the right time. But he was also mic'd up. And the dude is a chatterbox for all the good reasons, for all the right reasons. And one thing that I thought was absolutely hilarious. It's crazy, first of all, that an athlete has a microphone on him while he's playing in a game. But so he was mic'd up since during pregame, during shoot around, and they caught him having a jovial discussion with Stephen Curry. Apparently, Stephen Curry has some gray hairs coming out. Dude's aging. He's going to turn 36 next month. By the way, happy birthday, Andrew Wiggins. I believe today is Wiggins' birthday. So Andrew Wiggins, I believe, is now 29 years old. Yeah. So Gary Payne II, who again is comedy. He pointed out Stephen Curry's grays. Look, it happens to the best of us. I've had these grays on my beard since my late 20s. And then it just kind of stopped. I mean, I still see new ones popping up every now and again. But so Steph is getting the grays out. Gary Payne II encouraging him to not dye the hair, just to let it grow out and be natural. Called him a silver fox. But in all those clips today, what it revealed to me more than anything else is that when you talk about this team's chemistry, when you talk about the fact that the Golden State Warriors are feeling good, and you're seeing the bench reactions, you're seeing them on team flights in unison, you're seeing them, just being positive with each other. They genuinely look like they enjoy each other's company. That's chemistry. And Gary Payne II is such a huge part of that. You can see the difference. I mean, there's a lot of differences between last year and this year, but Gary Payne II was not on this team for a lot of last season. Even when the team traded for him, he was still injured, right? So you saw him sometimes in street clothes, but his impact was not felt. It is good to have him on this team, folks. And his defense, again, is impeccable. I just hope he's used the right way, because if you use him the right way, especially in spot moments against specific players, he's as close to a lockdown defender as you're going to find. So kudos to Gary Payne II. He had a great game tonight as well, again, on both sides of the ball. In 12 minutes, he scored 12 points. Klay Thompson finished the game coming off the bench. His new role, had 13 points, 5 of 11 shooting, 3 of 8 from beyond the arc. And just another beautiful performance from your Golden State Warriors. But Sunday, that's the big one, folks. And we'll see how that goes. Are we good? Intro Carl, can you give me a thumbs up? Are we good? Anything else? I didn't get to that other Steve Kerr soundbite, but I think we're going to be okay on that. We'll see you Sunday. And yes, Kuminga plus 15. Kuminga with 6 assists. Pay attention to that. Teams are preventing him from attacking the paint. They've definitely adjusted in that regard. But all Kuminga is doing is finding other open players, man. This kid is special. I'm so excited to see what's to come. And thanks, everyone. We'll be back at this Sunday night. Huge show. Warriors Nuggles. Let's do it. Thanks, everyone. Bye-bye.